Hey guys, this week I got to sit down with Jade the Gemini and we got to talk about the African diaspora and what it's like to be from the West Indies but also have a love for Black Americans and how we can all get together within the diaspora and not hurt each other so much. You know, unity, how can we get together? But it was an awesome conversation I had with Jade. I hope you guys enjoy.
Introduce yourself for the folks. Who are you? Where can we find you at?
So my name is Jade. You can find me on here as Jade the Gemini, and you can find me on Instagram as Not Your Average Church Girl. And I don't want you to find me nowhere else until until I am ready.
For real, every time, I'm not gonna lie, every single time TikTok asks me, I'm like, oh, do you want to sync your contacts so that your friends and family? I'm like, that's the last. No, I want no one in my phone.
Respectfully, I'm all right.
I like y'all. I love y'all. I love this little community I built.
Yeah.
Everybody here, just stay out.
I'm good.
So today we are talking about, which I've been watching a lot of your videos as you've been talking about this. I've seen a bunch of your lives that you've got with other people talking about this topic, and that's why I brought it to you, is kind of like the African diaspora and coming together. So there seems to be this sort of back and forth. I'm sure, you know, you folks have seen a couple of these videos of...
There's one going on right now.
Right. People going viral with these ideas of, you know, Black Americans, when I ask them where they're from, they only know their state, or Black Americans don't care about any other Black people. And it's kind of this Euro Blacks or African Blacks or, you know, West Indies, Caribbean, different cultures saying that Black Americans are insert whatever negative thing. And I think it's leading to this perception that there isn't a unification around Blackness around the world. And I've watched a bunch of your videos where you're like, nope, that's not true. There's just a bunch of really loud people that have gone viral.
That is true. A lot of loud, misinformed people. And that, it hurts me every time I cringe. And just because they are misinformed, it doesn't mean that they don't have others. You know, like, there are people who genuinely feel like that. But I feel like the majority, how do I say this? I feel like the majority of us, well, I can't speak for the African diaspora, but I can speak for those of us who are like in the West Indies. It's not that we dislike African Americans. Like, for you to find someone who dislikes an African American person, they have had like a traumatic experience. So if you ask the average West Indian person, they'll look at you like, why would I dislike you? I think it's a misunderstanding of culture, and the fact that I don't want to say this. How's the nicest way I can say that? The fact that there is a difference in value system. So it's not that they don't appreciate and love African Americans as people and as their siblings. It's just that they don't necessarily understand or value the same things African Americans value, because they don't understand the history of certain things, and they don't, or rather the history and the perception of African Americans have been poisoned by the colonizers. So on purpose, on purpose.
Right. Definitely not by our own. And so for anybody who's kind of curious, we keep using this big word, diaspora, African diaspora. What does that mean? So when a diaspora is basically a group of people that got sort of transplanted from like an original place. And when we talk about the African diaspora, we're oftentimes talking about the transatlantic slave trade and people who ended up in different places in the West Indies and in the Americas that integrated and mixed with the indigenous peoples there. And so that's where you kind of get this mixed culture there, and you get a very unique Black American culture in the States here. So there's cultural differences, and the kind of common thing is Black Americans don't understand their history, or they don't understand their culture. They don't know what part of Africa they come from, or where in the diaspora they come from, what other countries they could possibly be descendants of. And that's kind of the running joke. But you, Jade, you go back and forth. So
I am both.
I was going to say, I would imagine when you're in your stateside, you're perceived as a Black American. But is that necessarily how you identify? Like, what would you say about yourself?
So, actually, being on TikTok helped me use the correct terminology for what I would identify as, because like growing up, like in Connecticut and whatever, like you're African American, whatever. Yeah. And then when I go home, like people will tease me. It's like, hey, don't try that here. Don't come with you're African American. I keep forgetting you're African American. And then I was in a live a few months ago, and somebody was like, "You're not Black," and I was like it was literally a culture, like a shock to my system. They're like, "You're not Black. Are both your parents from the islands?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Then you're not Black," and I was like, "Whoa," and I had to sit with that. And then I realized what they were trying to say is like culturally. For us, Black is like your skin color, your race. But in America, Black is your race. It's also your identity. Like it's also your ethnic, what we call nationality. It's kind of like that for African Americans. So for them, they're like, culturally, you're not Black, like American Black. And then I had to step away for a while. I was like, what does that mean? And why is this making me uncomfortable? I was like, no, I'm West Indian American. That would be the correct term. So that's what I identify as, because I feel like, one, I don't want to disrespect African Americans and their very, very unique journey in the West. And two, I also do want to, wear as you can see, I don't know if you can see, but my hoodie is it has home on it and my island there. So I want to carry both sides of me with me. So West Indian American makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. I feel like with other cultures, we do that same thing, but and this is where saying that, I see someone in the comments wrote, like, it's unprovoked and it's unnecessary. And how do you know the value system of Black Americans if you don't even speak to them or understand them? And that's very true.
Because it's informed by media.
Yeah, somebody's saying it right now. Exactly what I'm about to say is we identify as Black ethically and racially. Our nationality is American. So
yeah,
it's this kind of misunderstanding of what race, culture, ethnicity, and nationality are, because Black is our race, but because we're in America, it's also the name of our ethnicity as well. That's why a lot of people are moving away from, I don't even know if you've noticed, I've been using the term a lot in even just this interview here, is Black American versus African American. A lot of people are stepping away from that because they're identifying that, like, no, I mean, when you say where you from, and I say my family from Alabama and Georgia, that's where my family's from. Like, how many generations do we have to be here before we say my family's from Alabama or my family's from Georgia? Like, my great-great-grandparents were born in Alabama. My great-great-great-grandparents were brought to Alabama. So, but you know what I mean? So I think that is kind of where we have this miscommunication and it's kind of a syntax error. It's a little bit of a...
English is a very limited colonizer language. Like there's no expanse to it. Like it's utilitarian. It's weird. But I think even this question about where you from, like only recently on TikTok have I seen people like making fun of Black Americans because they didn't know where because like that's not a West Indian thing, because we don't know where we're from either. Like we're also like descendants of chattel slavery. So to ask an American, a Black American, where are you from, and laugh because they say a state, like that was weird to me. So I was like, who are these people? And I realized it's a lot of probably Black Brits saying this. And but the thing is, a lot of them know where their tribes are from. So I think it's a lot of insensitivity and blindness on their part to not realize, like, hey, a lot of us don't know where we from outside of the past 7 generations. Like we genuinely don't know. I only recently found out that my maternal side, some of them came from Cameroon. Only recently, so it's like, it's weird to watch. It's actually quite painful to watch, because it's like, hey, you don't know who your daddy is. It's like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? That's mean.
It's definitely kind of just poking fun and poking at a sore that we're all super like we know why like we all know why a Black American would say a state where they're from, but also I think it's kind of an ignorance on the part of what America is, because and you're right. I think it comes from a lot of people who are either overseas or never left the island, and they don't have a grasp on how large America is. Because I actually was over in England a couple of years ago. I was playing in a band and we were on tour. We were doing like kind of this little short run.
So was I.
It was very cool. And well, I wondered if you had this experience talking to people and being like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to this next town, and you tell them where you're going and they're like, that's a 2-hour drive away. And you're like,
so as a West Indian person, we're just like, drive for 2 hours? Okay, because a lot of islands, if you drive for 2 hours, you're like on the other side of the island.
Right, you're on the other side of the island, and that's how it was in England. They were the same thing. They were like, you drive for 2 hours and you're halfway across the country. Where are you going? Why are you going so? Like, to them, like, that's the farthest thing you can do. To me, I'm not even halfway across my state. So
wild.
A lot of people don't really realize that when we do say things like, oh, our family is from Alabama, I'm talking about 800 miles. I'm talking about 10-hour drive away, a huge distance. Like, this is kind of the roots. Like, this is the ancestral lands that were recreated because chattel slavery brought us here and made us have to make something brand new. And
I think that's why I admire Black Americans so much, and I think that's why my content has been skewing this way, because I don't know if we understand what it's like to live with your oppressor, what it's like to still live through slavery in a remix, but it's so insidious and invisible, and you still make your own culture, and you're still crafting your identity, and you're still in it. You're still in it, and you're trying your best to break out of it. And at every move, it's like those haunted movies where the doll is talking, and then when you call someone to see it, it stops talking, and you feel like you're crazy. And that's how I describe racism against Black people in America. It's like everybody on the outside is like, no, that's not happening. Look at all the things you can do now. And you're just like, that's not the same. It's not the same thing. I swear to you, it's happening. And it feels like mind bending. And I don't know how else I can show my appreciation and love for Black Americans, because as West Indians, for the most part, there are some islands that are still, like with Haiti, they have their special thing going on where France, America, everybody's still oppressing them financially. But for the most part, we've never been the minority, because the majority of the stolen Africans came to South America and the West Indies. So even in the smallest of islands where slavery was happening, the ratio of white to Black has always been 10,000 to 1. 10,000 Black people to one white person. In some islands, 100,000 Black people to 1. So we've never racially been the minority, even during slavery. So we've never had to have that dynamic where our skin color was such a big factor in our identity. Our freedom was, but not our skin color. That was just a given. We've never had to pretend to be something else to get rights, you know. But Black Americans have had the whole 1 drop rule, and then you had white passing and all of that, and we've never had to go through these, like, we Black, and that was like, so for us now, because we don't have to identify as Black because we are the default. We've never had to racially figure out what we were. We were West Indian after they left, after the emancipation. We just reestablished the tribal thing, where your island was your tribe.
Right.
Your island was your tribe, and you can hear it in the way we speak. Like, St. Lucia is a less than an hour plane ride. They have a completely different accent than we do.
Yeah.
Same thing from Guadeloupe. Same thing from Barbados has a completely different accent, but that's African retention. That's like every tribe in every African country, they have their own language, and it's different. Even if y'all are rubbing shoulders, but your tribe has its own language. So we lost our language, but I don't know. Africanness is just such a beautiful thing. Blood memory is a beautiful thing that we recreated this whole how we speak, how we emit words, how we perceived the colonizer's language, and how we recreated it. It's like our tribal language. That's our accent. And Black Americans are doing the same thing. Because I know somebody from New Orleans when I hear it. I know somebody from Baltimore. I know somebody from Georgia when I hear it, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially that. Like, the accents all over the country are completely different, and even like little tiny things, like even up here, I'm in New York, and not in the city, I'm in Western New York, and even that is a fun distinction to make to people. Like, I'm in Western New York versus the New York City, because you say you're from New York, and they go, "Oh, the city," and I'm like, "I'm in a city, but not not the one that you think of." And it blows people's minds when they go, "Oh, well, do you just, like, head up to New York City and, check out Broadway?" And I'm like, "New York City is about 7 hours away. So no, not often. It's a trip to go out there." And they're like, "Wait a second. Wait, where are you?" And I'm like, "Western Buffalo, like Niagara Falls, like the big water."
7 hours away?
New York is big. And New York,
I've always perceived New York as tiny. I don't know why.
It's very big. And New York is kind of is huge to go from like the tip where I am. Like, I'm a stone's throw away from Pennsylvania and Ohio and Niagara Falls, Ontario. Like, I'm really close. I'm a border city, right?
Okay.
To go to New York City is about 7-8 hour drive, depending on. People always laugh like, "Oh, it's 8 hours," and then somebody else goes, "No, man, it's like 7 hours because you know how we drive, so like it's probably making like 7 hours."
Yeah, it's wild. Driving over there is wild.
But even some of those things that we say, some of like the little vernacular that we get, and people go, "Oh, are you from the where are you originally from? Are you from the South? Are you this? Are you that?" And it's like, I don't speak Southern, I speak Black. Like that's just what it is. Southern people speak like us because you know why. There was a lot of us at one time down there. That's why.
But I'm really invested in healing and like having conversations where we get past the white supremacist talking points and just hurling them at each other, and we actually start looking and be like, oh, this is the enemy.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And why? Like every time you say that, like every time you say something to someone or you have a perception of someone, you should always ask yourself, where did I pick that up if I haven't had any face-to-face time with them? And when you start pulling at the thread, you get like you become Scooby-Doo and the gang, and you start unmasking people.
Right.
You know, and I'm waiting for the day when we hear, you know, white supremacy be like, I would have gotten away from it too. I would go away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling kid. Like I'm waiting for that day where we're all on the same page, because like when we get on the same page, the things that each of us have, and I constantly say this, West Indian people, for the most part, and people in South America, Central America, we are Black nations.
Right.
So we have our own countries, as well as African countries have a lot of resources. African American, well, Black American people, they have like pop culture, they have everything. Like pop culture, they're tastemakers, influencers, like they have the world's attention. They say what is cool and what isn't. They have all the major billion-dollar industries. The only problem is they don't own them.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we get, and I keep saying this, how do we reestablish a triangle of trade where we're not the product? Because the triangle of trade was Europe, go down to Africa, come over to the West, back up to Europe.
Right.
So how do we establish that where we connect Africa to the West Indies to America and back in that triangle where how do we do that?
Right. Like how do we control our own networks?
That part.
Of sharing information, products, our own, more than by the block, more than just buy Black. Like, I heard someone say this the other day, like buying Black is great, but we want people to own the factories, like more than just assembling the products or having the idea. Like that's an amazing feat, and we love that. But more so, we want like the means of production to be owned completely by Black. Like, how do we have Black vendors at every step of the way so that these things are completely shoved out, so that we aren't having these ideas colonized just completely and utterly
How?
The entire time?
How do we expand the NBA to African teams?
Right, yeah.
To South Africans. See, how do we expand the NFL? Where we're the ones owning these teams. Because if the NBA is not just American stateside teams, and you have, teams in the Congo, teams from Kenya, like teams from Uruguay, do you know how powerful that is? Because I bet you it's not Bill Fickett from Alabama owning the Congolese team. It's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're going to have the eyes that LeBron James brings. So imagine how powerful it would be when you have millions of people a night watching an NBA game, but it's the Raptors versus the Congolese, I don't know what they would call themselves, but you have that. And you have Congolese ads running during that time.
Right.
You have African music, Afrobeats music playing. The normalization of seeing African people, Black people, in contexts that are not suffering, that are not 10 cents a day and feed. You see these mega stars who are from Africa. Like, if you change the way you view people, it's going to change how you treat them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of it is, how do we get Black Americans to have more exposure to what it what Africa is? Because I think we have this kind of colonizer teachings and we grow up in these systems that teach us that, like, Africa is awful, and unless you're on a resort, the islands are awful, and everything is poor and gross and all this stuff. And then when you go there, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I remember I was in South Africa. I was in Cape Town and Durban, and I was in Tanzania and Dar es Salaam, and I've been in Morocco, and I've been
there.
I've been a couple different places. We sort of joke, like, we went to the southernmost country, we went to the northernmost country, and kind of cut across to get in between. And the interesting thing to me, every time we have gone overseas, is everything and everyone is Black. Everything. Every TV commercial, like, unless you're watching American movies, every movie, every TV show, every
ad, every billboard,
everything, every shop owner, and everything that shop owner gets in his store is owned by a different Black person at some point down the line. Like, you go to a supermarket, it's owned by a Black person who all the produce is locally sourced by Black farmers around the corner. All the products are made. Like, every restaurant you eat at is Black owned by default. Like,
Black people are just people.
Right. The term Black owned
doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist because that's the default there.
And that's what I keep telling people. I was like, people don't understand. Even my friends back home don't understand. I'm like, y'all don't know. Like, I'm going home in a couple weeks, and I'm like, I'm just counting the days where I can be Black in peace. I keep telling them, they're laughing. I'm like, y'all don't understand what it is to just be a full human and not have to qualify or quantify my humanity. Because when I say I saw this person, when a West Indian person here, you say, oh, I saw this person on the bus yesterday, they don't think it's a white person. Right. They think in Black. Because that's who we are. Our celebrities are Black. Our leaders are Black. Our rich people are Black. Everybody's Black. Like, it's, and right. Even if you aren't, like, it's literally, if we go to a store and we see an ad and it's a white person, like, why is there a white person on this billboard? Take that up. Like, it's like, who is this for? And where did you get this random white person? For this, right, yeah. this is why. Like, it would immediately be like, what is happening? And it's only going back and forth that I've realized, like, yo, the American experience is tough as a Black person, where you literally have to search for yourself. Oh. It's like you're there, but they're trying to convince you, like, somebody said it's like I'm not touching you type of racism. It's like,
exactly.
What do you mean you're not represented? Look at Gone with the Wind. There was a Black All right, cool. And whenever right, Black people get to be people or like fantastic beings, look at Little Mermaid. Like, people, like, as a West Indian girl watching Little Mermaid, like, I wanted to be Little Mermaid. I was doing the tail thing in the river and in the sea because Sebastian was Jamaican. So it made sense that Little Mermaid was West Indian. And you had Flounder, who was like the fish that we see under the water all the time. And in my mind, Prince Eric was just a Dutch colonizer coming to see about his father's slave colonies in the West Indies, because we all know the Dutch were the people who were running it, the Dutch and Portuguese. So exactly, it made sense to me that she was Black. Like, I'm like, oh, finally y'all get it right.
Right. Yeah,
finally, exactly. Y'all get it right.
A lot of people don't. I mean, I've gone back and forth with so many people on the whole like the historical accuracy, and I'm like, first of all, we're not even talking about that book. We're talking about the movie that they made in the '90s, but fine. And but anyway, even if we were, he still could have been talking about exactly. He could have been talking about the West Indies because that's what they were doing at the time. Y'all just always ignore that part, and it's the racial gaslighting that you
But
don't
the
get in
point
other.
of the story, though, was to tell people to stay in their place. Don't aspire to elevate your station.
Right,
That
exactly.
was the point. So
Yeah.
what? How else does it make more sense for a Black person to try to attain the same type of station as a colonizer? Like, this is a whole, like, I don't think people understood like how much it makes sense for Ariel to be Black.
Right. But it's the flip side of the coin, the hot side of the pillow that white as default exists in this country, and they don't see that. They don't see it as that. Like whenever I tell anybody a story about a person, it's like I have to quantify, oh, so it was this black guy that was talking, and then you get this weird reverse thing of, oh, well, why do they have to be black? Because they were. Like, if I was in another country, I wouldn't have to say that they were black because
And
everybody would be black.
and
So,
that's exactly where I think West Indian people go wrong, because we never have to quantify unless it's in our case where we do have the Kalinago people. That's the only time, if maybe it comes up, if it's important to the story, we'll mention it. But generally, when you say a person, you're thinking someone who's melanated, because the Kalinago people are also melanated people. But like, I don't, it's kind of like, the way I see it, it's like a Western expat. No, I'm not going to say an expat. A foreigner coming to live on the island. And they're like, "Oh, there's just no representation for me." And I'm just like, look at this tin of Dutch lady milk. There's a milkmaid on here.
there you
What are
go.
you
You can
talking about? You are. Hey, guys. Yeah, I'm like, representation. Come on. Look at this Nestle cornflake. Come on.
This is
Come on. They're
Jade.
like, that's not what I mean. I was like, oh, you get it though.
See, these are kind of like the cultural differences where like that never even occurred to me that like, oh yeah, like that would be your representation, right? Like oh, you should be happy with the milkmaid. We're supposed to be happy with the syrup bottle lady.
Mm.
Like,
Listen, like, I'm very aggressively Black. I keep telling people I'm unapologetically aggressively Black. And I have come to the conclusion that on TikTok, in real life, in these spaces, if someone does not have the history, if someone doesn't understand what chattel slavery was, if someone doesn't understand what patriarchy is, what white supremacy is in its entirety, the conversation is fruitless, because you are speaking in calculus and they are speaking in 1+1. That's it.
yeah.
You're explaining how the pyramids could, all the physics that went into building the pyramids, and they're trying to stack building blocks for a toddler. Like, they can't hang. They're swimming in a shallow pool, and they don't understand the structures that are invisible to them. And I feel like the way for me to honor my ancestors, both Kalinago and African, is to let my people know, because I have a foot in both worlds, is to kind of translate and be the bridge where, because I had a live where I said this, as a West Indian person, I will never know what it's like other than when I come to America. I'll never know what it's like to live with my oppressor. I'll never know what it's like to be the minority on my land.
Right.
I'll never know that. So it's like, hey, Di. So it's like, if I don't have to deal with living day by day with the reminder that I am not important, that I'm not the beauty standard, even if I know. It's like constant gaslighting from the day you are born in this country. It's constant cognitive dissonance where it's easier to just agree, okay, this is the world, and yeah, I'm lesser than, and yes, I'm the minority. But your soul is like, no, this is wrong. And you have to do that fight every single day. I'm like, we wake up, we yawn, and we're like, do I feel like going to work today? That's our life. That's our life. I can go to work and cuss. Well, not now because I'm in America, but like, I've fought with my bosses before.
Right.
I don't care because I'm like if they talk to me, I was like, excuse you, we're two adults. Don't try that, please. Just settle down. We'll come again. Like we can do that, but the type of decision making you have to make every single day and weigh every single action as a Black person in America, that's exhausting. So I often tell West Indian people, you kind of have to eat it. If a Black American is coming at you a kind of way, like, you kind of have to eat it because you've had the emotional space to exist as a full human being.
And we're over here stressed out
every day,
all day long.
And our entire culture is about party, drinking to have a good time. Like we are on an extended period, like we're on college break all the time because we're like, listen, slavery was rough. And as many years as we were enslaved, we're going to party as many years in exchange. So in the next 300 years, we might transition to something else. But for now, turn up, fet, wine, drink, eat, have a good time.
Yeah. So I thought was really interesting too, being in other countries, is even like the experience with like the police or security. They've been different entities in different countries, but like the police in South Africa. I remember being in Cape Town, and me and my wife were trying to walk somewhere. We always try to just like walk most places, or like take some sort of local something or another. Very rarely like Uber or anything like that. Like we like to take local transit, like whatever it is, bus line, whatever. In on Zanzibar is the Dala Dala, and it's just maybe a bus, maybe a van, maybe a pickup truck. Who knows?
I know it well.
It's just you jump on and you throw them whatever you got, and then they're just like, we go up and down this one road, and that's it. You get off, and you can get anywhere on this one road. But when we're in Cape Town, we're walking, we're trying to find this beach, I think, or something like that. And got kind of turned around, got lost. Google Maps wasn't working. And so we must have looked lost or something like that. And I remember seeing this police officer, and the initial feeling kicked in was like, oh shit, there's a cop. He's gonna mess with me. Or he's gonna do something, or just like, oh, okay, so sorry for being around, sorry. And my wife was like, yeah, but he's also probably lives here, and he probably knows where we're trying to go. So like, I don't know, let's just maybe try. I don't know. So I was like, we'll walk by. So we started walking by, and he goes, hey, where you going? And I turned to him and I was like, I think this beach that's up here. He goes, what beach? What are you talking about? And I said the name of the place that we're trying to go. And he goes, oh, come here. I'll show you how to get there. Hold on. Come here. Show me your phone. And so I pull out my phone, and he's like, okay, this is where you're at right here. He's like, you're gonna go down here. He's like, it's probably not on this map. He's like, well, you're gonna go down here. You're gonna go down this street. He's like, go up here. Left, right. Yeah, that's good. And he's like, you want us to take you down the street? And I was like, no, I mean, we're having a good time walking, and, we're just trying to see everything. He's like, all right, well, if you need anything, just let anybody know. welcome to the city. Hope you guys have a good time. And it was such a pleasant experience. And then we walked away, and I was like, he was really nice. The city. Hope you guys have a good time. And it was such a pleasant experience. And then we walked away, and I was like, he was really nice. Wow,
Yeah.
what a nice, what a nice guy. Like he was. Like
Whole
I
time.
just don't understand like getting pulled over or anything like that. But I remember even talking to people in town, and they were like, "Yeah, you don't really get pulled over
For
for like
what?
speeding or anything. Like that's not like traffic stops aren't really a thing.
No, they're
They're
not.
there to help you. Like if your
Literally.
car breaks down, then like yes, the police will come. Or like if you're getting in a
Or if there's a
fight,
car crash.
yeah, there's a car accident, car crash, somebody's getting in a fight, the cops will come and go, stop. You know, and I'll
Here's the
just be like,
thing.
"Hey, stop it."
Here's the thing with us, right? No, so number one, I was a school teacher, high school teacher, all types of teachers. Since I was like, I lied. I finished college early. I was still a teenager. I lied on my resume. I got to be a high school teacher. I was still a teen, right? So I was teaching people that were older than me. Um, so even as a teacher, like pretty young, my students by the time, because a lot of them, well, our high school system is different. We have five, what y'all call grades, we call forms. So you go, high school is first to fifth form. So if I'm teaching someone in fifth form, their next step is college. So my first year I was teaching like the seniors, and then they go on to become like policemen or whatever. So I'm walking through the street, and you see these grown ass men with beards and everything. They're like, Miss, how you doing? Hey, that's my teacher. And I'm just like, shut up. People don't need to know how old I am. Like, what are you doing, bro? But it, like that's literally my experience with police back home. Like, our police literally are there to keep people from killing people. Because like, if you steal, we call the police for your protection if you get caught. If you do anything wrong, like if you're harassing a woman, if you've touched somebody inappropriately, the people will handle you, and the police are called to make sure you walk away from the handling with your life. Literally, that's what the police are there for. Like, people slap the police, like the police was like, "Go in there," but who are you talking to? Like, because the police have to come to the shop the next day. Like, do you want your eggs or not, officer? So you drink with us after work, so you're not gonna give me a ticket. Like,
Right. Yeah. Right.
so
Right.
it's like, there's not this fair. And I feel like, honestly, for the most part, West Indian people live a pretty fearless life. We don't have any apex predators. We're just living, you know? Unless you're like in one of the bigger, more Americanized islands, like us small island people, I don't have any concerns. I can walk as a woman in the middle of the road at night if I want to, and I don't feel scared.
Right. Right.
But there's a fear that I feel every time I land in Atlanta. Like, immediately, like it's like this backpack of worry that I feel. And I always have to be looking, and I'm just like, I want Black Americans to experience just West Indian life. Like I keep saying, we don't have much, we don't have money, but like we have a place where you can just be safe and relax, and we'd love to share that.
I've known two people that have moved to Tanzania. Actually, both moved to Dar es Salaam in the past 3 years, 2 years. But in the last 2 years, I've known two people that have moved to the same city, and their almost primary reason is I visited, and it was the first time in a very long time, or for couple from like part of his family, like the first time they ever remember being like not where it's just walking around and being like, oh, me being black has nothing to
You're a
do
person.
to do with anything. I was more embarrassed to speak to somebody because I was like, I'm sorry, I'm American. It happens so many times. I would just go, I'm sorry, I'm American, and then they would go,
That's
oh,
literally the only way people will know.
right, yeah. So I would start speaking, and they like hear my accent, and
Did they talk back to you in like their version of an American accent? Because in the West Indies they do that.
I had a couple people on when we were in Zanzibar. It's another island, so I had a couple people do that same thing, but they speak Swahili there.
Must
So
be an island thing.
like, start speaking Swahili to me, and then from being there for like a week, I got like a couple words, so I could say hi, hello, the things you need to say. Hi, hello, food, bathroom.
But generally,
That's the stuff that I could say. But then they would like go off into the like whole paragraph, like talking to me, and I would go, I'm sorry, I'm American.
it's the way you're saying, I'm sorry, I'm American. Like you genuinely mean, I am sorry.
Yeah, I apologize for I'm an American.
Damn.
Yeah,
but you're like that brings up an interesting thing. The way island people mimic an American accent is to say man after everything. Hey man, you trying to go to the waterfalls, man? I got you, man. Like I'm just realizing, like, this is how they talk to tourists.
That's your very American accent talking to tourists.
It's just to put man in front of everything. And it's really interesting to hear them try to match the cadence of American speech, because West Indian like speech is very melodic, like very sing-songy. So like to see them try and like manage that and try to make it into the American thing. So the only thing that sounds like similar to West Indian speech in American is Black American speech.
Right.
So that's where the man thing comes from. And a lot of people watch a lot of 90s Black cult classics. So it's like New Jack City type. That's all they know. They all talk like they're in New Jack City, just
that's amazing.
That's wild.
I'll have a lot of people. I've had people basically do like their most extreme version of an American accent. Like, so I learned through accents or whatever that my particular accent is the news, I guess. So
yeah, I thought you were from Connecticut. No lie.
Right. Yeah. So like kind of this like New England, like I guess like kind of sort of neutral, very like neutral American accent. When I was in college, my teacher would joke and he would just be like, "Yeah, we're in this area, down a little bit into Ohio and Pennsylvania, and it's like up a little bit into like the Northeast. Like we're the news." So whenever we hear an American accent on TV, like we don't feel like we're like, "Oh yeah, that's what everybody sounds like," but to other people around the country, like they hear an American accent and I hear like what people sound like. So to me, what I think is really funny is when people from other countries do an American accent, but they do the most exaggerated one that they can because those are the easiest to do. So it's always this real thick country slang.
Yeah, so it's either you're from Texas or New York or Atlanta.
Yeah, it's
those three.
Very country accent, and I'm like, no one actually.
You're from Mississippi or Texas. You're from New York, and to be like, yeah, buddy, yeah, you don't mess with that. Oh yeah, so it's yeah and man. Yeah, you don't mess with me, yeah, man. I don't like that, man. Or it's Atlanta, like it's you'd swear the Migos are everywhere. Like it's one of those three.
Yeah,
or the girls, like we do a pretty good Valley Girl. Like we always like, what are you talking about, Bethany? Like we do that. Like we got that down. Because let me tell you something. Saved by the Bell. You can't say nothing. You can't come to the islands and talk about Zach. Like Zach. Zach is Zach is our dude. Zach and Slater. Oh my God. You can't. You just can't.
Oh man, this is fun. All right. So, last question to you, and then I'll let you get out of here. So, Black Americans and other Black people around the world, how can we help each other? Like, if you were to speak to Black Americans and say, like, hey, this is why there's a disconnect. This is what you can do to help. You know, what would you say?
Man, I feel honestly, sometimes I feel tough about asking Black Americans to do any more labor, to be quite honest. And the thing that would actually help us all is something that is really tough, that people like really have a hard time with, and it's decentering ourselves. That is the way forward for just a little bit of time to get to a place of unity, because everybody's individual feelings and everybody's individual experiences tend to take center stage when we have these conversations. And the only way for us to, again, unmask the real enemy is for us to decenter ourselves and like move away from, I feel this and Black Americans do this and West Indian people treat me like this. There's a reason. And if we can decenter long enough to get to the reason, then, you know, we can actually get to the point where there's trust. And as soon as there's trust, there's going to be socio, geopolitical, and economic relations between us. And that is terrifying for the powers that be. If the people of the West Indies, Africa, and Black Americans ever establish relationships, like real socio-political relationships outside of the structure of American government, that it's over. Like the type of power we'll be able to wield over the stock market, over consumer relations, like we can do it, you know? And there are other countries who are invested in our division too. Let's not take it for granted. But I also do want to kind of encourage Black Americans to understand that we see y'all as our family. A lot of the times we're literally treating you how we would treat our brothers. Like my brother would walk into the door, is like, what is this stupid cow coming through? Like, or be like, you stinking crab, why are you here? But it's like a term of endearment for us, because that, like, in West Indian culture, we're big on like hiding our affection with like jokes. So a lot of times it's like it's a familiar relationship, but we don't understand that the wound is still very raw for you guys. So we're like, you know, saying things and with the ignorance that even if we say this shit, y'all know you're a family. You're use boys, man is boys, you know, but because we don't live with it, we don't understand that sometimes our words are literally just echoing the things that they're battling every single day. So that's why I tell West Indian people, like, yo, if Black Americans react to you a certain way when you say things, don't take it personally. Just eat that. Just eat it. Because one, you always have somewhere to run to when America gets too much for you. You can go home and be Black in peace. They're stuck here. And they're outnumbered. So all we have to do is be the support. We have to be the safe place where they can vent. Don't be the place where they hear the same white supremacist talking points. So I don't really have anything for Black Americans to do other than those of us who are willing to hold space for you, let us do that. Also, a lot of our countries have economic programs where you can get economic citizenship and you can get a passport to be there through whether it be real estate or their visas for you to work for a year. Because like I said, we don't have money, but we have land. So we're always willing to take you in. We're always willing to show you a good time. A lot of these islands, you can have a good time, eat, and never have any money. Like, you're never going to starve. Because someone is going to take care of you. Someone's going to bring you somewhere. Someone's going to feed you. And that's who we are. So my only encouragement is there are a lot of us who want a relationship with you. Just trust us a little bit. That's it.
That's it. Well, thank you so much, Jade, for coming on. And
this is fun.
Sorry about the technical whatevers, but I think we figured it out.
Yeah.
We'll have to do this again real soon.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening in again. I really do appreciate it. I love you all so much. Thanks again to Jade for coming through and talking to us about the African diaspora. I hope you guys learned something. I absolutely learned some stuff from her as well. If you want to be part of the conversation, we do this live on TikTok right there at my page. That's IDEF-Overthink. That's IDEFF Overthink. And that's right on TikTok, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. So you could be part of the conversation live and ask questions, and we'll answer them right there for you. And then it'll be on the podcast the next week, and you can show your friends. But please do. This does help for some reason, but it gets us out to new listeners and gets us, pushed up to the top when people start searching for things. But please do rate and review the podcast on your podcast host of choice. It really does mean the world. It really does help. And I hope to hear from you guys soon. And I will see you next week. Drink water. Stay hydrated. Drink water. See you next week, guys.